All right, hello and welcome everybody to today's workshop. Let me be the first, well, maybe not, hopefully not the first, but one of the first people to wish you happy Father's Day to all the men out there. We really appreciate the strong men that are leading their families and doing a good job to teach their children, especially around finances, right? Finances are such a powerful tool to be able to teach and develop our next generation. We do a lot of work around starting with finances, but how it applies to other areas of life in some of the economic work that we do with my wife at the nonprofit. So we can see how big of an impact getting your finances correct and planning properly with your finances is to just people of any age generally. So today we want to talk about why don't more people plan their finances? And so I think there's a lot of different reasons, but we're going to dig into some of those today. But the goal of what I want you to take away today is that we need to have a plan. We need to be thinking ahead. And I'm going to give you a 3-step process to help you start planning your financial goals. And so hopefully today you find this interesting, and I'll have a little mini homework assignment for you. Nothing too crazy, but I want you to play along so that you can start to get on track with your financial planning. So hopefully you're joining us today. And if you are watching on a Father's Day, I appreciate you taking the time. And always, I do appreciate your time and attention. So if you have any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to just put those in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get to those before we wrap up for today. And if you're watching this at a later time that is not live, again, please leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to try to get to those as soon as I possibly can. So on that note, we're going to jump right in here with our today's workshop. So today's workshop is called Why Don't More People Plan Their Finances? So as a financial advisor, this is something that I deal with on a daily basis, right? And I see the big difference between people that plan early and those that wait till the last minute when it comes to their overall financial situations. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, the earlier the plan, the better off you're going to be with your plan. So some people think it might be too early, or there's other excuses why they don't do it. But I can tell you from experience, there's no question that the earlier off you start, the better you're going to be when it comes to your financial and retirement planning situation. So let's jump in a little bit of that today. I do have to let you know that today's workshop is not meant to be any sort of specific financial advice, legal advice, anything like that. This is educational, so hopefully you enjoy it. But let's talk about why more people don't plan their finances. Okay, so if financial planning is, at its most basic level, simply managing your personal financial situation, then doesn't almost everyone have at least some need for fundamental financial planning? And this is something that I 100% agree with, that everybody needs some sort of financial planning, no matter where they're at. Okay, there's maybe the single person who's just starting out. You might be just out of college or just leaving home. And that person may need to establish something simple, just like a basic budget, and to evaluate some savings plans. Should they be putting money? Do they have a workplace plan, for example, like a 401k? Should you open a Roth IRA? Should you just start with an emergency fund? These are the basics of the foundation of what everybody may need just starting out. For the parents whose final child has graduated from college and now have this extra money that they need to decide where to place it, there could be multiple areas on where to actually funnel these funds. And for these folks, it might be in your 40s or 50s at this time, so retirement might seem a little bit further away. But you have options like paying down your home, putting the funds in your 401k at work, or just using it to travel today. Maybe if your financial independence is already on track. And for those mostly here that are looking to plan for retirement in 10 years or less, things you will need to understand are you going to be able to supply your income needs after paying taxes? Many people forget that they've been putting money away pre-tax in their 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, whatever it may be, for 30 years, of 25 to 30 years plus. And now when they take money out, they're going to have to pay taxes. So there's going to be a percentage, maybe it's 10, 15, or 20% or more that needs to go to taxes before you can get what your net amount will be. Second thing might be making sure your investments perform well enough to provide for your cash flow needs in retirement. Again, these are things that are long-term planning that need to be kept track of on a regular basis, because you're not going to get a consistent 6, 7, or 8% every single year. Some years you might get 15 or 20. Some years you might get 2. Some years you might get -6. So you got to make sure that your investments are staying on track and performing well enough to plan for to provide for your cash flow needs. Other things to be thinking about as a retiree: which pension option to take. Should you take the 100% survivor, 50% survivor, or just 0% survivor and take more cash flow today? When to claim your Social Security benefit. and also a plan for your spouse in case one spouse passes early. We've talked here before about what's called the widow penalty, where 2 years after your spouse passes, you go from the joint tax rate to the single filing tax rate. So if most of your money is in a pre-tax account like a traditional IRA or 401k, and you go to single tax rates, that could be a much larger tax bill than you're expecting. Again, all these things can be addressed with a financial plan, but most people don't take the time to do that. So like I said, these are all financial planning questions. And our point of this series today, I should mention, is we're going back a little bit more to basics, and we're starting from the beginning for those that may want to, are just really getting started with their finances. We'll get to more advanced topics later, but these are some of the things we're going to start with as the basics. So why people may not plan? Why do some people choose not to plan? Because I do think it's a choice. You may not think it's a choice because you're ignoring it, but at the end of the day, you made a choice to ignore it. And one thing that I will always give you is honesty. And sometimes that honesty is tough to hear. And sometimes, you may not realize it. It is a choice that if you choose not to plan. But what are some reasons people may not plan? One is because people may not understand, the process of financial planning. Like, where do you start? And I think I get that a lot from many people is, what's the first thing that I should do? Some other things you may be thinking about are, they may not have enough money or assets to require financial planning. This question has been posed many times before. Well, I don't have enough money to require a financial advisor. I've refuted that many times by saying, well, if you don't think you have enough, that's probably a really good reason to get somebody involved in your life to give you some advice on how to maximize the minimal resource you may have. Both ends of the coin do require extra assistance. One side you may not have enough, or the other side you may have too much. And if you have more than you need, engaging in a tax planning is going to be very important for you, or else you're going to end up giving a lot of it away to the IRS along the way. Other things this is what I've seen just consistently ever since day one that I've been a financial planner, is that most people think financial planning is only about choosing investments or buying insurance, or that it's only for the rich, right? So a lot of folks will want to use services, and I love Vanguard. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Vanguard, but their financial planning service is mostly focused only on investments. They do a basic financial plan, but they leave out taxes and insurance planning. And those are big things. Other sides of the industry you may deal with are folks that sell annuities, right, or insurance products. Basically, the answer to every single financial situation is buy this product. I don't think that's the right idea either. And many people as well think it's only for the rich. There has been a shift recently in our industry, in my industry, I should say, that certified financial planners are really finding ways and different fee models to be able to serve a wide diversity of clients, which we definitely offer as well. So you don't have to have $1 million to get the help you need. You may have to pay a fee, out of pocket, but that's a great way to engage with somebody that you pay a fee for advice, and at least you can get the help that you need. And believe me, the whole reason I started doing this, I got into the process of becoming a financial advisor about 11 or 12 years ago at this point, was because I was working for a company, getting stock options. I had a little bit more money than I needed, and I didn't know where to go get advice because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I went on my search, and mostly what I found were people that wanted to sell me insurance products like whole life insurance, or they told me I need to have $500,000 or more to get the help. We were determined at Keep It Simple Financial Planning to help people regardless of where they're at on the spectrum. And again, we have fees that may be more than you want to spend, or maybe right in your alley, right up your alley. But the idea is that you can pay a fee for advice regardless of how much you have saved. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And then the last thing there is some people don't use the services of a financial planner because they're concerned the fees will be considerable. And that is definitely a subject to your interpretation. I do find that in this industry, you get what you pay for. So if you pay a really low fee, you're probably going to get very basic advice. And maybe that's what you need. But a lot of people do need more advanced advice when it comes to things like healthcare planning, distribution planning, taxes, and making sure their investment portfolio is properly designed so they don't make a bad mistake at the wrong time. Even Vanguard's study has shown that the value of a financial advisor is about 3% average per year. And a big part of that is human behavior, making bad decisions, pulling out of the market at the right time, keeping way too much money in cash, which I know there's a lot of people that are doing that in this group today. You have so much cash sitting inside, and you're waiting for the market to drop, and then it just keeps kind of going up and up and up, and you never end up doing anything. And so you miss out on the opportunity cost of that time when the market was not down. So these are things that when you have someone in your corner, you have good guidance, can easily pay for itself because you are going to make good decisions or better decisions than you possibly would make on your own. On the other side, there's definitely ways you can do things on your own if you get the wrong advisor. So you want to make sure that you're working with, at a minimum, a certified financial planner or somebody who is holding themselves out as a fiduciary, so that you have someone that's going to work in your best interest over their own. So if the first conversation is about what products you're going to buy, or investing in proprietary investments that have the same company name as the company you're buying them from, those are two big red flags you might want to watch out for. But keep in mind, working with a certified financial planner, that's one way to make sure you're going to work with somebody that does have a fiduciary duty now at this point. Okay, so this concern about fees, it does come up quite a bit. But those that are concerned about them, I would question you or caution you to say, what is the cost of not getting the advice that you need, right? So many times, fixing mistakes, or waiting too long to develop your tax planning strategy, or simply not knowing your prospects for a successful retirement may cost you more than getting the help you need early, right? So you'd be surprised how many folks that we work with that really are on track to retire. They can retire today, but they were planning to work 7 to 8 to 9 years more because they didn't think they had enough. But when you have a well-constructed, optimized financial plan, and all your financial planning, I call them your puzzle pieces, are put together in a way that are optimized, you will be really surprised with how much more people are on track than not. Obviously, we can't always plan for those large medical expenses later, like if you're on long-term care for 5 or 10 years. Those are things that may come up, but I wouldn't tell you to work to 75 to make sure you can avoid being on long-term care or being able to afford long-term care for 10 years if that was the case. We use statistical averages, we do our best, and we work with you as an individual to understand your overall, your medical situation, if there's things we should be looking out for that you know of. But these are things that, looking at the opportunity cost of what it may cost you of making a mistake or waiting too long versus getting the help you need today, are things that I want to put on the table that, again, are up to you, obviously, but I want you to make good decisions for yourself, and getting help and getting guidance is usually an investment versus a cost if you get a good financial advisor. And other people simply avoid. They simply avoid planning out of fear, okay? This is like going to the doctor and being fearful of what you may hear, right? So they're avoid the financial planning process because of what it will uncover. You might feel sick or might feel under the weather, but it's not that bad. The pain's not that bad, so you decide to avoid the doctor, especially the dentist, okay? And I'll be the first to admit I do this, okay? I am on consistent track to go to the dentist now. I go every 6 months to make sure I do my check-ins, but for many times I would go once a year, once every couple years because I had no pain. And then for many years I had to spend a lot of money fixing things that needed to get up to date that I avoided. And if I would have just done the maintenance along the way, paid up front, overcame my fear of going to sit in that chair, my overall dental health would be better than it is today, okay? And so these are things that we don't want to avoid just because we're fearful, to find somebody that you can work with that is sitting on the same side of the table as you, that will help give you the guidance and advice and help you understand what you have and how to maximize it, is usually a great way to start, okay? And perhaps the most significant reason people will not engage in the financial planning process is their tendency to procrastinate, okay? So financial planning process, even in its most basic form, does take some time and effort, okay? If you want to sit down and do a basic budget, you're going to have to gather your bills and expenses. You may have to review what you spent these last few months, and you may have to kind of get your paycheck and your overall tax return together so that we can look at what do you have after taxes are paid, to use towards planning your financial future. So there is some effort and process, and procrastination can be a big problem to making things move forward. So the big thing is everybody feels busy, right? We're all busy. We have a lot of things going on. This last year has been chaos for many people, and many people feel that they're too busy to find the time or invest the energy. But the problem with this attitude is clear. Failure to engage in financial planning now all too often means financial failure in the future, okay? So whether you want to start on your own, Google's a great resource. It's a great place to start, and just to type in some things on where do I start with financial planning? How do I get started with investing? There's a lot of good information out there. But once you get to a point where you need to put it all together and you're making big decisions like, can I leave work? Can I buy that second home? Can I do some of these big goals that I have? You might want to get a second opinion from someone who is a professional to help you out with those things. And I hope you like my meme here. I thought this was hilarious. All right, so where do we start? The two big questions you need to ask yourself are, what do you want and what are your goals? Okay, this is where we need to start. What do you want? When do you want these things to happen? What goals do you have? How much will they cost? When do you want to accomplish them by? These are things that we need to have a good understanding of. So if we ask an average person what his or her financial goals are, you might hear things like, I want to have enough now and later on to live comfortably. I want my investments to grow. Of course, everybody wants this. I want to make sure I keep my taxes low. So these are all things that we hear consistently. But the most significant problem with all of these goals is that they're just way too vague, right? So how much is enough? How much do you really need to live the goals and dreams that you have? I see some people that just go what they focus on. What they see online is, they need to replace 80% of their current income. Okay, and if you're making $100,000, you need to replace $80,000. Many people think that they need $2 million to make sure that they can live comfortably. For many people, that's just not the case. When you take out the cost of the tax savings that you'll have from a proper withdrawal strategy, or looking at how much you're going to need to be comfortable when you're not going to work every day, buying yourself lunch, buying clothes, putting all the miles on your car. For many people, it's a lot less than they think, and that's surprising to many people. The second question: what is a comfortable retirement? What is comfortable, right? What is comfortable to you might be different than the next person. So this whole online deal of retiring with 60 to 80% of your expenses is such a wide range that many people as well have higher expenses earlier, right? We call that your go-go year. So your busy years, usually 5 to 10 years after you pull the trigger on retirement. And then you have a period that slows down a little bit, and we call that your slow-go years. And that might be kind of early to mid 70s and through your 80s. And then we have what we call your no-go years, where you're more sedentary, but we may have medical costs that increase towards the end. So we call that the retirement smile, right? Where expenses start high, they go down in the middle, and then they increase towards the end of retirement with medical. So these are things that having a comfortable retirement is very unique, and it will differ from person to person. But these are things we need to get specific on. And the other questions, like you said you want your investments to grow. What is the average return you need to achieve your goals? A big mistake I see people making is that they're either too high of risk in their investments or too low. They've been burned in the past, like a 2008 situation, so they put a bunch of money in a fixed fund. But now we have a major inflation kicking in. And what you need to know about inflation is when it's low, it usually stays low for a while. But when it increases, it usually stays high for a while and increases for a while. So it looks like we may be heading into a period of higher inflation than we've had in the last decade or two. These are things you need to be prepared for and make sure your investments are going to keep up with that. And if you have too much money in a fixed fund, for example, you may have some challenges on the back end of retirement. So these are things we need to be aware of and plan for. What should be your plan to keep taxes low based on today's tax laws, and how will you adjust if things change? So when you want to keep your taxes low, there's going to be a pendulum that swings based on tax policy, where we had the Tax Cut and Jobs Act back in 2017, let lower taxes for many people, not for other people. And then we're going to possibly have a new tax plan with a Biden presidency that may raise taxes for other people. We're looking at inflation in many areas, like in my area for sure, gas is over $5 now, or high $4 in many places. Wasn't that high a year ago. So there's taxes that are on the quote unquote middle class that are more of these hidden taxes. They're in our food costs, in our gas costs. Those things are hidden, and based on how the economy is being run and how things are going, those might be hidden costs we need to be aware of as well. But for those of you that are on the higher income scale, or you have a lot of money saved, there are bills out there that are being proposed to raise taxes on those higher tax brackets. So those are things we all need to be aware of. So one of the most valuable services that a good financial planner can offer to help a client is asking the right questions, okay? So this is where you might pay a low fee and you might just get a basic financial plan. But if you don't even know, because many times individuals, they don't even know what questions to ask. So if you have a good experienced financial planner and they know what questions to ask and how to use these questions to develop realistic planning recommendations to meet your stated goals, this is so important to having a good financial plan that meets your needs and really brings everything that you want to the forefront to maximize your overall financial situation. And on top of that, by the way, it's entirely possible and highly likely that during the goal setting process, your choices will need to be reevaluated in light of available resources. So for example, many people I speak to, when we first establish financial goals, before we've ran all the numbers, we always start with goals and cash flow planning before we get into retirement planning, because we need a place to start. I want to make sure that you can do the things you want to do, that you're not sitting at home living off peanut butter jelly sandwiches and tuna, right? Just to retire. I don't think that's right. I want to make sure if travel is important to you, you can get some travel in there. If you want to eat out because that's important to you, you have an eating out budget in there that is part of your overall cash flow plan that is totally accessible to you if you want to do those things. But many times we find that people underestimate what they can do because they just want to retire and they just want to get out of whatever work that they're doing and get to the next stage of their life, into that encore career or to that encore part of life where you just get to do whatever you want to do. So many times we'll start with some goals and then we'll find out, hey, by the way, it looks like you can safely spend an extra $5,000 or $10,000 per year, and now we may need to reevaluate. When we talk about travel, do you want to add a trip in per year? Do you want to add getting the nicer hotel or upgrading to business class or first class for your tickets? These are all things that definitely usually need to be reevaluated in light of available resources. And so this is fine. It's a total normal part of the financial planning process. But we need to start with something, start with some goals, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do today, is to start to establish some financial goals. So what are the steps to setting a financial goal? Like I said, I like to keep things simple, and I wanted to keep this really basic for you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a simple 3-step process, and then we're going to have a little bit of homework today. Okay, so our 3-step process I'm going to recommend for you is to ask yourself these questions. What is the purpose of the financial goal? What is the time frame for your goal? And what is the amount of your goal? Okay, so what is the purpose? What is the time frame? What is the amount? So we call this PTA, purpose, time frame, amount. So here's an example. I want to save $50,000 in the next 5 years for a down payment on a house. Okay, so note that there is a purpose. The purpose here is to buy a home. The time frame is 5 years, and the amount is $50,000. So we know on average we need to save $10,000 per year to achieve this financial goal. Pretty much at any time over the next 5 years, we'll be able to check in and check the progress of your goal and make sure that it's on track, that if we're ahead or behind to save $50,000 within 5 years. What I find, by the way, is that by setting purposeful, time-bound, and actionable goals that have that target, right? So let me go back one second. Purpose, time frame, amount. Purpose, time frame, amount, PTA. When you have these and you write these goals out, many times the universe will conspire to bring things into your life you didn't expect to help you achieve your goals. Bonuses come in, increases in pay come in. This is very, very normal, but most people don't think this can happen to them. And there's been many studies that show that only about 5% of people actually establish written financial goals. And usually those same 5% of people end up in the 5% of the most successful people in the world. And this has been studies that have been done over the last decades. So I encourage you, take the time to write down your goals and ask the questions that I have you here. So what are some examples of poorly written goals? Here's one. I want to buy a vacation home. Okay, sounds good. But what's your time frame and how much is that going to cost, right? Or I want to save for my daughter's college education, which will be starting in 12 years. Okay, great. We have the purpose, we have the time frame, but we're missing the amount. What is that going to cost? And those are things we have to consider, like with inflation, for example. And college costs have gone up significantly over the last decade, 10 to 15 years. Even with things going online with coronavirus, we did not really see a drop in college costs. Things are pretty much the same, okay? Do I think college will be the same in 12 years? I don't know. I do think most of it there'll be very good online options, but there will still be the elite universities that are around, and they'll still be good for networking. But will it be worth paying $100,000 in student or obtaining $100,000 in student loan debt to go to college? I don't think that was ever a good idea, by the way, and I don't think it will be in the future. But these are things that we need to have a plan for. We need to include numbers like inflation so that we know what we need to save, for a goal that's that far out. All right. So in summary here, so let's wrap up, and this will be your homework for this week. Okay. So what I want you to do is write out your top 3 financial goals using the PTA format. Okay. Purpose, time frame, amount, and I want you to post them to the comment section below this video. So if you're somebody who's committed to achieving your financial goals, you will do this. If you watch this far, I would definitely recommend that you take the time to do this. And if you have any questions at all, please leave those. You can go ahead and leave those below. And if you're somebody that just needs a little bit more help, right, and you want somebody to help you establish your goals, or if you want to look at actual numbers to see, am I on track for retirement? Can I buy this second home? Can I leave work 2 years earlier than I wanted? Well, then I would invite you to come set up a meeting with us. Okay, so we're here. So if you need help with your financial goals or retirement planning strategy, please set up a complimentary consultation to discuss with me or my team. To do that, you can go to keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk. Right there, you'll find my calendar page, and you'll be able to select the time that works for you. I'll also put the link down below. But other than that, we're going to wrap up for today. So I know there's a little bit of a transmission delay. And for those of you that are watching, what's at least one of your financial goals that you have? What do you want to accomplish this year that maybe you couldn't accomplish last year because everything was shut down? It really messed things up. Leave that down in the comments below. So I'd love to hear that. So I'm not seeing any questions come in. So if that's the case, everybody's feeling good about what we talked about today. I will wish you a happy Father's Day, a happy Sunday. Thank you for your time and attention, and I will see you on next week's workshop, which we're going to continue digging into the financial planning process. We'll talk a little bit more in depth through here these next few weeks, and then we'll get into other subjects around retirement planning, taxes, investments. A lot of other things are going to be coming here. So got a lot of good education. I wanted to restructure some of our training and just do it fresh over again for all you new folks that are joining us. So I invite you to join us every Sunday right about 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time for these workshops. And I do them on Sunday because I think most people are off work, and you can catch them. So we'd love to have you live, all right? Have a great Sunday. Thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.